Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sports Vault Jersey. Joe Archino back here, and today will undoubtedly be a day of celebration for Manchester City Football Club in an overall season that's been defined by a lack of success in the Premier League, where really their stock and what they invested in the offseason and should have been put into winning. But certainly today will most likely wield a win against Dynamo Kiev in the Champions League, and it will allow City to advance further in this competition than they ever have. But largely, it's overshadowed by what has been complete and utter disappointment. And this, of course, advanced once again after just walking away with a draw against Norwich City this weekend. And certainly Manchester City, I mean, the verdict is out about them. There's no hiding what the season has been like for them. They have missed out against all the top clubs. They have missed out in competitions against Leicester City and against Arsenal and against Manchester United, basically, and against Tottenham Hotspur. Basically, you look at the top three clubs. Leicester City, they've drawn against and they lost against. Tottenham Hotspur, they lost both times against, and they've only played Arsenal one time, and they lost that one. Against the top clubs, they have not had any success, and that is an indication of where the club stands. And certainly, they are not one of those top clubs because they have not had the ability to beat them. And certainly, people like to point the fingers to a lot of things that once Manuel Pellegrini and it was announced that Pep Guardiola will be taking over as manager, things kind of fell off from there. But largely, this is something that has been happening well beyond that. This started to happen as soon as David Silva got injured and as soon as Vincent Kompany got injured. Those two injuries really started the process of the deterioration of Manchester City. And certainly, you hear a lot of analysts talk about, well, now that the Premier League title is kind of out of reach, now do they focus all their stock into the Champions League? And Manchester City got so lucky getting Dynamo Kiev for their draw here because they're not going to advance past a Barcelona or past a Bayern Munich or past any of the other top European clubs. They got a very good draw here as opposed to last season where they got drawn against Barcelona in this phase of the competition. But when they progress further, they're going to face off against another top club like a Real Madrid or like a Barcelona or potentially a Bayern Munich, and they're just not going to be able to get it done against them because you see what happens to them where they play clubs that are comparable to them in terms of talent, in terms of just playing well, and certainly they have not had or been able to hold their own against any of those clubs. And I think the ultimate verdict and the ultimate detriment to Manchester City is they don't play as a team. Possession means nothing without position, and they certainly do a good job at holding on to possession. Position is where they don't play well together, and certainly Pep Guardiola's system is built on the 3 Ps, as Thierry Henry likes to say: possession, position, and play. And certainly Manchester City does the possession part well, but they don't do the position part well. And with him there, you would think if you can combine those factors, they will get to the point where the ownership group wants them to get with all the money that they have spent. I have no doubts that Pep Guardiola can turn them into a perennial title contender. But right now, you see why they're not winning. It's very easy to see why they don't win. They don't play as a team. They don't defend as a team. And when you have kind of noise and they're looking so much to the future instead of the task at hand, it's more difficult to focus and regain learning what you should be doing to correct these problems. But certainly Manchester City Football Club today will most likely be a day to celebrate, but moving forward, not as much celebration. This weekend they have a match against Manchester United. Of course, the Manchester Derby, they walked away with a 0-0 draw. The first time these two teams played this season, and both teams have kind of followed similar seasons, and it's been defined by disappointment largely. Louis van Gaal has had as much disappointment as anyone has had this season with his club, and certainly for Manchester City Football Club, it has been a similar story. So it's only fitting that these two clubs would walk away with another draw, but certainly we have a little bit more time until that happens this weekend. And once again, we see that just the other day, Leicester City is able to pull off another victory and solidify their position in first place. And they really, I mean, if you've listened to me these past couple of months, you know that I've been all in on Leicester City Football Club. And again, I think this season has been very easy to read for the Premier League. Yes, it has been very competitive, but even with the competitiveness, it's been very easy to figure out. Leicester City has been the most consistent team in the Premier League all year. They've been more consistent than Arsenal, Manchester City, Tottenham Hotspur. You name them, they've been more consistent. They've built themselves once again a 5-point lead. And just the other week, Claudio Ranieri has said that a 5-point lead means nothing, but it's coming to the point where it's starting to mean something. It still doesn't mean anything, and they still need to continue to put their foot on the gas pedal full steam ahead. But they've a very favorable remainder to their schedule, aside from the last 3 matches that they play, Chelsea, Man United, and a couple other ones. They really have a very favorable final to their schedule, and they just have to continue to do what they have done all year. And no one else has been able to pull off that same level of consistency like they have had. They will hold up the trophy at the end of the day. I think as the weeks have gone on, people who have doubted them have started to be more and more convinced, and certainly with the lead that they have now, as we continue to wind down the season, they have made it more clear than ever that they are going to hold up the title. And it just kind of goes to show you, and I think it's very telling, because you can be an Arsenal or a Manchester City or Manchester United and go out there and spend exorbitant wages on players. But if you don't get those players to connect with each other and you don't get them to play as a team, that money and that talent means nothing. And Leicester City Football Club, clearly, it doesn't have the amount of funds to spend on players like these other top clubs do. But they're going to win the title this year. And they're going to win the title because they play as a team, because the egos don't get in the way of what matters, and because Claudio Ranieri has done a masterful job with his team this season. They deserve to win the title, and they are kind of a perfect case to look at if you're these other top clubs, because they didn't spend that exorbitant amount of money, and they're winning the title regardless of that notion, because they do the things that matter, and doing the things that matter is how you win the right way. And certainly they have won the right way this season, and it will pay off for them in the end. Leicester City Football Club, soon to be the champions of English football. But until then, Jersey Joe Archino here with the Sports Vault. You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Archino and on Instagram, Jersey_Joe_Archino. And I'll see everybody next time.